Okay, welcome to What's the Story? My name is Janice Hermson. I'm your host here today with Doug Ashby, and Mr. Ed Knoll is still absent. We are wondering, where are you, Ed? Where are you? Are you okay? We're worried. We're
Just
worried.
don't speed across town. We've got
No, we got this covered. Yes, sir. We got you covered. We're doing okay, and we miss you, but
not that much.
wow, he's a tough one to deal with, you know. Oh, what happened? So it looks like my stream to Rumble just crashed, and I'm not sure why. It's just telling me that they're having trouble sending it to that destination. Okay, so if you're on, I guess if you're on Rumble, you're not hearing it. You know, that's all I can say. So sorry about that. And we just keep doing what we do. Hopefully you can jump over to another platform, whether that's YouTube or Facebook.
Over in the mall with our time slot over there in the studio, did somebody else take that slot?
Not at this point.
Really?
Not at this point. No, we're still able to, be there if we wanted to, but we're here. So
yeah.
What can I say? No, I don't think anybody's picked up that slot just yet. So there is an available time between 3 and 5 at the Reno Town Mall. So be sure to check that out if you're interested. Though we love being able to stream on America Matters as well. So we're on the Facebook page for America Matters. If you're, just kind of jumping around, we're also on LeRue Press, Book Hound, and What's the Story, all some of our pages that we post on. And as I said, YouTube as well, and then Rumble. And I'm not sure what happened to our Rumble stream, but I will fix it for the next show. It was fine on our last one, so I'm kind of surprised that it didn't work. So sorry about that. And I'm sorry for those folks who probably are trying to get onto Rumble that like Rumble. So anyway, I'm trying to think if there's a way I can do something to notify anybody. I don't think so at this point. So anyhow, let's move on. And we were going to talk about in our second hour, we were going to talk a little bit about what makes a story newsworthy. Was that what you wanted to talk about? Or was it something else?
Actually, no.
Okay.
It's
what was your angle on that?
It's we've said many, many times that we thought that the news media was biased and it wasn't fair.
Right.
And so that's what that's basically what I did was I searched that.
Oh.
And actually, I didn't search it. It popped up as a story and then made me search it because I thought, boy, this is right up my alley. I love this because these news organizations, they're money-making organizations. If people don't trust you, they're not going to listen to you. So if that's the case, and you have like we think CNN, my gosh, they just don't tell the truth. They're too biased, but yet they never, from month to month, week to week, they never seem to change. Well, why is that? You go, oh, scratch your head, right?
Somebody's paying them,
so
because they're not going to stay there unless somebody's paying.
Would you like me to get into this?
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. It kind of fits in with, what makes it does fit in with the topic, actually.
Yeah, well, this...
Because it was what makes a news story trustworthy, newsworthy. Trustworthy is part of what makes it newsworthy, right?
Well, the first thing that I did was I looked up, it's a household word. It's called Miles Law.
Oh. It's not a household word, Doug. It's not. I know you tried to tell me that at the break too, but no, it's not. You read it to me. Okay. No.
Miles is the originator of Miles Law, which states, where you stand depends on where you sit. which is so true, right?
Yep, it is true.
How you look at things are basically, what you think. The phrase originated in remarks Miles made in late 48 and late 1949 while working as chief of the labor and welfare branch of the Bureau and Budget of the United States Congress. And so that, that sets the stage. And I honestly thought that, you would look at this and you'd say, well, everybody knows that Fox News is really trustworthy and CNN probably is a little less. Au contraire. What would you say of all of the 50 to 52 news outlets out there, which would you say is the top rated for being trustworthy?
I have no idea. MSNBC?
No.
No.
Want to make another guess?
CBS?
Nope. You could go on, and I guarantee you
I would never
get it.
guess.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. I presume it's something unlikely in my mind.
Absolutely. The Weather Channel.
Oh, how funny is that? Oh, that's funny. That's really funny.
When
Wow.
I read
the
that, I
Weather
thought, oh my
Channel.
gosh.
Well, at least they trust it. That's good. It means the meteorologists are doing their job, right? That's awesome.
Well,
Because some people think the weather is fabricated.
Sometimes I wonder, though, my gosh, they say it's going to rain, and you look out, there isn't a cloud in the sky, So, yeah, I have to kind of, apologize to our audience because when I looked up this, I thought that, I was going to put my finger on this and they would have maybe a 1 or 2 page article. It was actually 25 pages long.
Oh, boy.
And it went into everything that of how people look at articles and whether they're trustworthy or not. And so, and then not only is it 25 pages long, but they give the statistics of how each one of these ends up where they are. So if you want to have your head spin, read 25 pages of statistics.
No, thank you.
Yeah. And it says, trust in the media in 2024. Which news sources in America trust and which do they think lean left or right? And this was done. This is kind of like a book critique by Taylor Orth and Carl Bialik, and U.S. politics editor and vice president of data research. And this was done as of May 30th, 2024, which is pretty recent stuff. It says the American news landscape is fractured and polarized, with no outlet singularly gaining the public's attention or trust. Partly identification divides the media. Most major news sources are perceived by Americans as either left or right leaning. I think that's probably a pretty true statement, right? Democrats are far more likely than Republicans to trust the news in general, as well as to trust most specific outlets. I think that's interesting. Democrats are more trusting than Republicans. That's okay.
That's probably valid.
Republicans,
I would think.
But see, this is a statement that they made, and I thought it was kind of funny. Republicans and Americans in general. Does that mean Democrats aren't Americans? Are more likely to classify news sources as liberal. More so than conservatives. I can see that. The most and least trusted news sources. Like in last year's survey, we asked Americans in 2024 whether they find each of the more than 50 outlets very trustworthy or untrustworthy. And there was 3 gradations in between, but basically you get the idea from trustworthy to untrustworthy. The Weather Channel was at the top. Americans are 43% points more likely to call the Weather Channel trustworthy. Okay, BBC is at the top with a plus 25. PBS is at the top with plus 22, and the Wall Street Journal is tied with PBS with plus 22. That shocked me, absolutely shocked me. Those are the three highest rated. I don't think PBS would be because of their, what would you say, 16 or 18 reporters that they have. They're all Democrats.
Right.
So that's interesting. By far, the least trusted outlets included in the poll were, and this won't surprise you, National Enquirer with minus 45, Infowars.
They deserve that.
Infowars with minus 18. And
that's interesting because there's, who are they polling is the question, because
this is
because Infowars, I know a lot of people that really think highly of that.
We'll get to that who they're polling. Okay. And Breitbart News is minus 13.
So they must be skewed highly Democrat.
Yeah.
Because Breitbart for sure would be, as far as Republicans are concerned, would be trustworthy.
The Weather Channel, then Wall Street, then Forbes, the next ABC, up towards the top. Rutgers, Associated Press, CBS, Time Magazine, ESPN, C-SPAN, NBC, New York Times, Washington Post, USA Today, NPR, Financial Times, The Economist. Let me see. Let's get down here. Oh, where is NBC? Okay, well, those are the ones that are more trusted. The ones that are least trusted, and those ranked from 0 to plus 40. Okay, now we go in the minuses. Fox News Channel.
Really?
40? No, that's 40. That's probably.
Do
20.
they tell you who they're polled? Okay, so you're going to get to
that.
Okay, so hang in, folks. He's going to tell us who they polled.
Right.
But I did want to mention, just since we have a little break. Hold on one sec. Okay. We have a little break. I did post a note to let you know we are back on Rumble. So if you prefer to be on Rumble, you can jump on over there. I just got a notification that we're back live again. So sorry for the interruption. Go ahead, proceed.
That's okay, but listen to some of these that are in the negatives. And this is, which sources do Americans trust in 2024? They don't trust Fox Business Channel, the Daily Beast, Newsmax, Huffington Post, Washington Examiner, I don't know who that is, OAN, the Daily Caller, People, Fox News. Fox News is fourth from the bottom with 20 people, 20% not thinking they're worthy. Democrats are far more likely than Republicans to say they trust the news in general, and the same is true for trust in specific news outlets. 81% of the 52 sources asked about, a greater share of Democrats trusted rather than distrusted them. So Democrats are far more trusting than Republicans are. 25% of sources among Republicans, while both Democrats and Republicans generally are more likely to trust certain television networks over print online outlets. That's interesting.
Yeah.
They differ on which networks they placed in their trust. Democrats have the most trust in, we discussed this, PBS, ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN.
And that seems right. That just seems, like what they would do.
Right.
I don't know why.
Republicans trust Fox News, Fox Business Channel, and Newsmax. CNN is the most politically polarizing.
Oh, wow.
With 96-point difference in trust between Democrats and Republicans. So they added the difference. So this goes back to whether you're a Democrat or you're a Republican.
What if you're in the middle, I wonder?
I don't
right?
know.
If you're in the middle, now what?
Yeah.
Where do you go?
Other
I guess you
networks-
watch all,
yeah,
right?
Other networks are trusted far more than news by Democrats than Republicans.
And there are
too.
supposed to be so many independent, and when I say independents, I mean people that aren't either Republican or Democrat. They could be libertarian, they could just be nonpartisan, especially here in Nevada. And they don't even poll those people.
Yes.
So they
Yeah.
kind of leave them out in
Yeah.
the cold.
Republicans have a net trust that is 62% higher than Democrats for Fox News, 51 points higher than Fox Business Channel. Oh, many Americans saying they consume their news from social media more believe it's untrustworthy than trustworthy. Okay, this is what I like right here. YouTube and LinkedIn are regarded slightly better than the others. The least trusted social media platforms are TikTok, Facebook, and Snapchat.
No, that makes
Okay.
sense. Yeah.
Now, this is what I really thought was interesting. Truth Social. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it's Donald Trump's platform.
Yeah.
Is the most polarizing, with Republicans being far more likely to trust it than Democrats.
That makes sense to me.
But,
Donald
yeah.
Trump's platform, right? That
Hey,
makes sense.
Doesn't this go back to Miles' law? The most liberal and conservative news sources.
You had to draw us back to it.
The most liberal and conservative news. 3 times as many outlets are classified as liberal than are classified as conservative.
Say that again. How many?
3 times as many.
3 times as many.
Okay.
Okay.
The sources most likely to be viewed as liberal are MSNBC, Comedy Central,
Comedy Central.
and CNN. Major.
Not exactly a news source.
Well, this was, outlets.
Oh, yeah.
Major
outlets, I
print
suppose.
news outlets, including the Los Angeles Times, New York Times, Washington Post, also are significantly more likely to be characterized as liberal than as conservative.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Fox News, Fox Business, Breitbart have the most conservative network ideology, followed by Newsmax and OAN.
I'm not sure that I would agree that Fox News is more so than like OAN and Newsmax. I think that Fox News really does lean more toward a middle, that they're not as conservative, and they tend to throw in a little of both because they always say, Fox News, we report, you decide. So,
Yep.
I don't know if I would think that they were very conservative.
Okay, NBC, CBS, ABC, and BBC, although are more likely to be seen as liberal than conservative. Certainly true. Okay, now here again, this is which news sources do Americans think are liberal and conservative? More liberal are the ones that, matter of fact, through probably 30 of them. MSNBC, it's the first, number 1. Number 2, Comedy Central. Number 3, CNN, Huffington Post, Los Angeles Times, New York Times, NBC, ABC, New York, CBS, NPR. Well, you get the idea. All of those are considered liberal. The ones that are considered conservative are down here: Financial News, Daily Caller, National Review, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, The Federalists, Newsmax, Breitbart, Fox News Channel, and the very last one, Fox News.
Yeah, so it isn't as
Yes, okay.
conservative.
So, and then this is how Democrats and Republicans classify the ideology of news sources.
So let's talk about where you fit into this thing and what you think of what they just told you. Do you agree with it? Disagree? I mean, you're a conservative.
Yes,
for sure.
I am,
and have been forever.
Well,
or so it seems.
I'll tell you exactly what it did for me. Is it answered the question why does CNN, if in my view, and let me go back here to, I jotted some notes during our break about CNN. If I can find it.
You're not going to find it now.
CNN in 2021, CNN lost 5%. 5% of their viewership and 5% of their annual income. MSNBC lost 8%. Fox went up 5%.
Interesting.
So that was, well, that's what's interesting about it, because they talk about these are the conservative ones, these are the ones, yada, yada, on and on and on. Yet CNN and NBC have half the viewership that Fox does. But Fox is one of the lowest rated as far as what people think of them. Now, how does that happen? More people are watching them. So anyway, the bottom line to me is I can see why when you look at 25 pages of statistics and the owners or the principals in these news organizations, they look at this and they say, steady as we go, because we have the viewership, we're getting to some people, and let's stay where we are. But the bottom line is what we started with good old Miles' Law. The way you look at stuff is, I look at Fox News as being correct. That's because I'm a conservative.
Right.
If I had a liberal sitting
and yet I look at Fox News as being more in the middle, and you're saying that it's more conservative. So that's interesting.
So
it's all about perspective.
If we had a Democrat sitting here, they would say CNN. So what's the bottom line? The bottom line is, toss it up in the air. These organizations are what they are. And what Janice has always said many, many times, just about on every program, if you want to find a particular answer to a subject that you're, look at 3 or 4 different resources.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah, because you can't, you can form your opinion based on one, but it's going to be biased. No matter which one you're looking at, it's going to have a bias. So you've got to.
That's the way this it is. To that.
Yeah. So this would help you to know at least what the population feels the bias is. Yeah. Whether it is or not is, again, going to be up to you to decide, because you're going to have to watch the different ones. And I know people that channel surf all the time. They go to 2 or 3 or 4 different channels to hear what's being said. And that's when you start to see a lot of repetition. So it's funny, because you talked about what makes a news story trustworthy, right? Isn't that what you were talking about?
Yes.
Well, guess what? Pew Research in 2021 did what makes a news story trustworthy.
Yeah.
Oh, 2021. Yeah. You're talking about 2024.
Yeah.
They did the same story in 2021. They did theirs in June. That one is in May. And much of what you were citing, because I was looking at some of their stats, mine is not 25 pages long, but I was looking at some of the stats, and they did it similarly to what you just talked about, where, Republicans, Democrats, but the numbers are fairly the same. You might be a little more, severe in some areas than this, but I don't think much has changed. I guess that's what I'd say. And it seems like it should have been more, so much worse now because of where we are. But it's not. It's the same.
This they didn't.
Or seemingly.
This they didn't go into, and you touched on it just in passing. It's what's called the halo effect. What the halo effect is that you look at any nightly news, and who do they have? Usually 2 or 3 very handsome people.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Very well-spoken people.
Of course.
Why do they have them? It's the halo effect. People look at them and say, oh, my gosh, those people are really trustworthy.
Right, right.
They have what's also called the rusty halo effect.
That's my dog.
And you can guess what that is. So if you look at that, that's why, these, we just, that condensed 25 pages. Can you imagine what these CFOs or of all of these news organizations, they look at these statistics and they say, okay, how are we going to play this? If the management of CNN is all liberal, What kind of news are they going to have?
Yeah.
But does that make them wrong? I think one of the things that you and I ask for, I don't care. Well, I do care, but you do have an agenda.
Of
Don't
course.
hide it.
Right.
Tell people this is your opinion. And most of all, be honest.
Well, and when I was growing up, the news was more of a reporter, at least it seemed like it was, because it was really boring. And as a kid, I really didn't want to watch news. I was,
No.
my mom and dad had it on, and that's what we got to watch at dinner time. And so I was subjected to it, but it was not like my favorite thing, either that or Lawrence Welk. Oh, that was lovely. The bubbles.
Lawrence
And
Welk.
if you're young, you have no idea what I'm talking about. At any rate,
Well,
that's what my dad loved, Lawrence Welk, the
and the
bubbles.
loveliness.
I don't remember.
What was her name? Lon.
I have no
Something
idea.
Lon.
I was very young. I just remember the bubbles. It was the only thing that attracted me to the whole darn thing, not the music for sure. So at any rate, now I've lost my train of thought, but the news was boring because they were reporting. And so there wasn't a lot of spin. Again, this is the way it appeared to me. There wasn't a lot of spin. It was mostly just they reported the stuff and then you moved on and you had a half an hour of it at night and then you went about your day. You had newspapers that you read, and I'm sure that they were biased as well, but I don't think as much. And I'd have to look at it to say whether or not that's really real.
Well,
But
I have kind of an addendum to what you just said, because I just got through reading it, and it was The Women is the book that I read.
right.
And one of the things that they were saying about there is the news media during the Vietnam War just out and out lied to us.
Right. Well, that was different though. That
Yeah.
was the 60s, and
Yeah.
I'm talking more about, like late 50s.
Yes. Yes.
Before the Vietnam
Way
War.
back then.
Way back. Yeah. So I was little, but I was here. So at any rate, but the point is that journalism has changed. And one of my things in life had been that I wanted to be a journalist, and I couldn't do it early in my life. I ended up working and doing things, went back to college. And by the time I went back to college, I wanted to be a journalist, and I started to take the classes for it. And then I looked at what I was making and what a journalist made. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to be a journalist. I can't afford it. I had two kids, and so at that point,
doesn't this beg the question? Is because what is being produced by our colleges in a journalist major is mostly liberal.
Right. Well, and I think I was, God was watching out for me, because where would I be today had I decided to take that path? I'd be in a world of hurt, because I wouldn't fit at all. And I still don't fit, but I've never fit. So it's okay. But in that world, so I ended up going into accounting instead, or staying in accounting until now. Now I'm a publisher, another world. So here we are. And let's talk a little bit about what makes a story newsworthy. And this is from ThoughtCo, and that's thoughtco.com. Factor journalists use to gauge how big a story is. So is it really newsworthy? I thought it was kind of interesting. So the impact or consequences is one of the factors they're going to look at. Is it, going to be consequential?
Yeah, but again, that's opinion.
It is. Yeah. It is, but they're judging, because they're telling the story. Where does this fit? Is this a big story? Is it a medium story? Is it a feel-good story? Right? I mean, those are all different types of stories which fit into different places. So today we're doing What's a Story, and What's a Story is we vary our stuff. We try and be a little variety. We try to be serious, but not too serious, so that, it's not doomsday. And we look for solutions. That is one of our big things, is solutions, right?
Yes.
Not just looking for problems, finding solutions. And if we can't find them, hoping to direct you to where you might find them, right? Or how to get there. So the other thing they look for is conflict. If you look closely at the stories that make news, many of them have some element of conflict, whether it's a dispute over banning books, at the local school board meeting, bickering over budget legislation in Congress, or the ultimate example, war, conflict is almost always newsworthy. So if you're an editor, and we're going to talk a little bit about magazines too, if you're an editor, you're kind of looking at these things, right? What's newsworthy? What do my readers? And then you have to look at the demographics of your reader.
Well, one of the monikers that they have in the newsroom is if it bleeds, it leads.
That's right. That's right.
So,
Yep. Loss of life, property, and destruction. There you go. You're right on tune. There is an old saying in the news media. You want to hear it? Oh, let's see. Echo, echo, echo. If it bleeds, it leads. He didn't read the story, I promise you. And so what that means, that any story involving loss of human life from a shooting, terrorist attack, it's going to be newsworthy. Okay. The next thing is proximity. Where is it located? What does the event have to do with it? How close is it to your readers, right? Because readers, news is no different than books, right? Who are your readers? What is it topic? Where are you going with this? Prominence. Are the people involved in the story famous or prominent? That's going to play a factor. In a book, you try and have some famous person maybe write the foreword or, whatever it might be. Maybe give you a quote, give you a review. So those things. Timeliness. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that what we always said? Look at when it was written.
Yep.
Or look when it happened.
Yes. When did it happen? Exactly.
Well, you know what? But again, the book I keep going back to.
Yeah, women.
Well, the thing about it was certainly written today, but it was about the Vietnam War.
Right.
Now that was many years ago.
Right.
But all of that is coming to light now.
Yeah.
Do you know all of many of the rules and regulations that are written in Los Angeles County? They will say what the rule is and how it should be, and not only is it written, but you should know that it's written. I'm not saying that correctly, but what's happened is that not only are we writing it down, but if you violate it, you can't say, well, I didn't know that.
Gotcha.
You should know it.
Right.
You will be held accountable for what you should know, even if you didn't know it.
Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go. All right. And then the novelty of it. Another old saying, when a dog bites a man, no one cares. When the man bites back, that's a news story. Yeah, many of us have heard that. Human interest. So human interest stories tend to be feature stories and often break some of the rules mentioned above. They tend to pull on your heartstrings, looking more at the human condition. So, those are all factors in what makes a news story newsworthy.
But everything that you said there goes back to the very, very first that you were talking about, the people that are reporting this. Unfortunately, they are steeped in their own views. What is interesting to them might not be interesting to somebody else.
Right. It's true.
So
yeah.
Do you know, I while we were talking about all this, what it comes down to me, it just is what it is. When you talk about 50 news organizations and say, which is this or which is that, hey, take your pick, take your dart, throw it at the board, and you'll find out which one.
That's funny. So, so I did get a text from Ed, just so everybody knows. He's got a lovely picture here of him sitting on a hillside. He said that he had planned to be off today too. We just didn't know. He says, "Oops, thought I told you."
Oh, so he's not really. He planned on it.
He planned on it. He forgot to tell us. Yep. He said that they had to wait 2 hours on a bridge on 50 in Colorado yesterday on their way back. And I think that's a picture of him hanging out there waiting to go back. So anyway, Ed's okay. In case anybody else was wondering, we were wondering.
Yeah, good.
And so we're glad to have heard from him.
Then, huh?
Yeah, he's fine. He's fine. Yeah, he planned to be off today. We just didn't know it. So, because usually he does this every year, but he's off for one Tuesday, not two.
Yeah.
So this was just a different trip for him, and he stayed a little longer. So glad he's doing all right. He'll be back with us next week. We still have a little bit of time before we do our book blitz. Did you bring a book today?
Certainly.
Oh, of course he did. All right, but we're gonna do magazine. What was my topic here? I want to make sure I don't like misspeak about what we were going to talk about because, if you've considered creating an online or print magazine, we're going to see what some experts feel are important for your creation. So just like doing a book, if you're going to have, and lots of people are doing online magazines and some people still do print. We used to have our What's the Story magazine. We discontinued that in 2020 when that lovely pandemic hit and didn't get back to it. We had planned to try and make it happen again, but life changes and things change. And so we changed and we decided not to pursue it, at least at this time. So, but while the magazine cover is like the house, because that's what they say, that the magazine cover is like the house. Like the house door inviting you to come inside. The layout of a magazine is like the interior that makes you want to stay inside. So there you go. How about that? It's an interesting way to view it, right?
When did Life and Look magazines stop?
Oh my goodness. I don't know.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I have no idea. And again, younger listeners or viewers, no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's well.
Life magazine and Look magazine, especially, that was like way long ago. I think. I don't even know if I remember that.
They saw the handwriting on the wall.
They did. They got out.
However, that was before 15 years before we got into the new news age that we're in now.
So designing your magazine is very important, and there's so many different factors, but I could go on and on about it, but I'm going to talk about it from this perspective, which is more of an expert's perspective, if you want to call it that, published July 25th, 2022. And I'm sorry, but I cannot pronounce this lovely lady's name. Her first name is Paulina. Her hyphenation is Kubala, but the last part of it, Chuchanowska, sort of like my maiden name. My maiden name was Szudajski, so you try and pronounce that. I had trouble. All right, that's hard. I misspelled it for many years. I finally got it right. And now I have a different name. So you want to make sure that your layout, it kind of seems like it's an obvious thing, the layout of a magazine, just the way the designers mix pictures and words. And, you might just think, well, that's all there is to it. But when you continue to reflect on composing these main parts, pictures and words, you find out that it's not quite as simple as it seems. And that's very true. You start looking at, you just throw the columns on there and you throw some pictures in, you say, oh, that's going to be good. And then you go, oh, that's not so good. Right? So to sum up, layout is not only a harmonious relationship between text, images, and white space, it's more like a shell of a magazine, the frame on which designers, writers, and advertisers build the rest, the systematic arrangements of elements on every page. So your layout consists of certain elements repeated in subsequent issues. So you're going to have these elements in every issue, right? No matter what. So you kind of build almost like a foundation but it's more like a template. But it could be a foundation if it was a house, right? Because they talked about it being a house. I'll talk about it as a house. So some of the elements: headline, introductory paragraph. What are your margins going to look like? Is it going to be a full bleed, meaning if it's a print magazine, is it going to go all the way to the edge with the with the color and everything, or is it going to be not a full bleed, right? Typeface, spacing, paragraph structure, indentation, block style, or indented on every paragraph. It makes a difference. It makes a difference how it looks. Will it be justified, completely, justified, or is it going to, be sporadic?
I have to say this in the middle. I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, how many magazines are out there?
Oh,
We get a magazine a day in the mail.
yes.
So yes, there's a bunch
there's
of
a
them.
lot of them,
Yeah.
right? Color scheme, that's important too. Who's your audience? That color is going to make a difference. It's going to say different things to different people. Graphic elements, be careful how you use your graphics, because you might be saying something that you don't mean to say, right? Just by using a particular type of
Sure.
graphic.
Yeah.
Initials, footers and headers, sidebars, the thickness, color of the frame containing the photo or text. Do you have a border? Do you not? Right? I mean, these are all questions. So it says what we tentatively called mixing pictures and words is actually making a series of decisions that include issues like, and what I started to talk about, the number and size of columns, the placement of intentional white space. I don't think people even think about white space, right? When you're reading, you don't think about that. Who cares, how much white space is on the page? But it really matters. And especially when you're creating this and you look at it, and oftentimes people want to fill every bit of the page. I've seen this when,
I don't like that.
No, because you need the white space.
Yes.
You need that break in the pattern, right? So I'm sorry, I got off. Placement of intentional white space, size, position, and numbers of images and figures, size of page margins. And while you're creating, it isn't that you're going to say, well, I'm going to have exactly 15 of these and 12 of those. And however, you may have a certain number of storylines, or you may have a certain number of advertisers. So when we did it, we did little business card ads in ours. So we had a certain number that we were going to try and have for every issue, at least this number. We had a page defined for it, so that, you're going to, first of all, how much money you're going to make, right? So you can make sure you make enough money to pay for this thing. And if you're online, a lot easier, because your space is a little less expensive. One can only hope, being a web page. But if you're doing it in print, you got to think about all those things. What's in the budget for this? And
what would you say, or do you know, is the easiest print type? What is used most?
Well, I think that the newspapers are being pushed out. Anybody who does any kind of newspaper type of printing, or magazine type thing. I know Horsetails here in Northern Nevada had trouble finding a printer that could do the newsprint, right?
Really?
Well,
Wow.
because it's a dying breed, you might say, right?
Yeah.
The type of paper, even some of our paper that we use for doing jobs, for like invoices and things, it's changed. They're thicker now. They used to have thinner paper. We don't get as many color options as we used to. 2020 destroyed a lot of that. We used to have, oh my gosh, you just, anything you want. So I'm sorry, I am digressing, and I tend to do that. But as far as your question was, what's the easiest or most popular? Which one did you ask me?
Well, actually, most popular. What typeset do people like to look? Is more friendly?
Okay, that's a different
friendly
question.
to their eyes.
Oh, that's a different question. That's probably a Lenore question more than a me question.
Really?
Yeah, because she does most of our layout stuff, and she really is familiar with typefaces, and I'm not as good at that. I go by feel, I look at it and I like that. Where she's actually in tune to the different typefaces. So I will try to get you that answer, though, so that I can answer it next time around.
This, again,
Popular
the book I keep, it really had an impact on
I
me.
can tell.
It has bubbled up to be in the top 5 of my best
I can
books
hear
that I've read.
That's
And
crazy.
The irony of it is I never,
Yeah,
had it not been sent to me,
Yep.
I never would have read
That's
it.
true.
But
All right, so I'm going
it's-
to try and get through this because we only have a few more minutes. So you
Okay.
won't get to do your
right.
book. All right. Number and size of columns, placement of intentional white space, size, position, number of images, size of page margins, special effects like overlaying text on image or rich media. All different things you need to think about, chapter or section titles or headlines and subheads, and whether, or am I going to use all capitals or use some lowercase as my, right? But it's driven by your audience. Who's my audience? Will they like seeing that? Right? It depends on the kind of magazine that you're doing. It should be emphasized that every point from the above list refers equally both to digital and print magazines. So, and I'm going to give you, this is, the article is Press Pad, Mobile Publishing Made Easy. And the layout of a magazine is more important than you think. See why. So if you're looking for this particular article, because I'm not going to get through everything, I'm afraid, that would be where you want to go. And what do you learn from? They give you a video and they talk about design and they give you examples here of what the different types of designs that you can do in your magazine, give you some examples of, picture styles. And, there's just a lot to it. I mean, they're going into the psychology of it. Since 6 principles of design: figure of ground, similarity, proximity, closure, continuity, order. You can get real into this. And truthfully, once you've done it, you are doing all these things, right? And you may do it by feel, that you actually just have a passion for wanting to do something. So you start to do it and it kind of falls into place because you have that feel for it. So is this necessary? Not necessarily. Is it helpful? Yes. I'm going to say it's going to shortcut some of the mistakes you might make, like going too far out in the margins or having too many columns, or, too few pictures, too many pictures. I mean, there's all sorts of factors. And again, a lot of this is as you go, you learn and you figure it out. If you don't have the budget to have somebody that's a quote professional that's done it before. And, and it's so easy to do things now because of all the different, even AI can help you write it, right? I do recommend you read what it writes, but, it is a possibility, and you got to look at all of those things depending on what your goal is and what it is you're trying to accomplish. So then you want to look at the overall impression. They talk about National Geographic, which of course National Geographic is so full of pictures and popping color, right? I mean, it's just really deep, rich colors in a National Geographic and been around forever.
So obviously they're doing something right.
Well, it's the critters and the right. So I think of when I think of National Geographic, all the critters. You got a couple minutes for your book.
Okay.
Because we're going to run out of time. This goes so fast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just goes so fast, everybody. Right. And we appreciate you being here and listening and tuning in every week. And don't forget, tomorrow, 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time, we are going to have David Neff, and he is one of the co-founders of Telegram, and we're going to talk about the recent arrest of the other co-founder. So, okay, fire away, because I think we only have time for you.
This will be very, very blitzy.
Oh,
it really will be.
Well, maybe we don't have to rush.
And again, I have to preface this. I try to tie my book into what we were talking about.
Sure.
And this does it, I think, very succinct. It's called Stop Overthinking. 23 techniques to relieve stress, stop negative spirals, declutter your mind, and focus on the present. The Path to Calm. This was March of 2021 by Nick Trenton, and it had 1,100 reviews, and Goodreads 5,400. Overcome negative thoughts and patterns, reduce stress, and live a worry-free life. Overthinking is the biggest cause of unhappiness. Don't get stuck in a never-ending thought loop. Stay present and keep your mind off things that don't matter and never will. And the book, Stop Overthinking.
Stop overthinking. Okay, so there's some folks that have used this stop over term. Let's see what we got here. Stop overthinking.
That's it right there.
There it is. Oh, that's similar to the graphic I used last
Well,
week.
if you look down there, it says someplace this is one of 20 books.
So they have a big
Oh, I think
series
it
on
might have
this,
been
huh?
one of 10, but it was one of a lot. So,
One of a lot.
yeah.
Hang on, I'm going to grab this and share my screen with you so you can see the cover of the book. There it is. Stop overthinking. 23 techniques to relieve stress. Stop negative spirals.
What
Declutter
does
your
it say?
mind.
Format. See, there's book 1 of 20, The Path to
Wow.
Calm.
Wow. Nick
So
Chatton.
there's something in there for all of us. Oh, darn it.
Doug's got book 1 of 20. The Path to Calm. This one's 200 pages. And we're going to have to call it a night.
Good.
All right, good. Now that's it for us. We will see you next week. And we're glad that you were with us today. And remember, no on 3. Don't forget that. No on 3 if you're in Nevada. No, no, no.